Thank you to Kenzie Bruce for his incredibly generous support on Patreon. Falco versus Muldrotha, Meren and Orcus. A grip full of ramp, only ramping from turn 3 onwards unfortunately, but that gives our opponents time to go really quick and point their spot removal at each other, so we'll keep. There is something to be said for going slower and letting your opponents deal with each other first of all. The only turn 1 play coming from Muldrotha with the Birds of Paradise. We draw into Grateful Apparition, so could always go for that on turn 2 I suppose. Don't think we're going to be proliferating anytime soon though, so we'll have to hope that it dodges a board wipe. Oh, we actually don't have white mana for the Grateful Apparition anyway, do we? So yeah, I was just thinking we could do with getting this down before our commander really, so that we can proliferate the shield counter that comes onto Falco. Spore Frog from Meren. Golgari Thug, the first bit of dredge that we've seen from Muldrotha. Noteworthy that it's black mana from the Birds of Paradise that they're able to cast that with. Okay, and just like that we actually get into a white source, so we will go for the Grateful Apparition here I think. Necropotence from Orcus with 6 cards in hand. Similar card in Phyrexian Arena coming from Meren. Imagine that might actually stick around as long as Necropotence is in play. If you're ever going to play Phyrexian Arena, you want to get it out within the first 3 turns. It's the only time that it's actually good. Maelstrom Pulse immediately going on to the Necropotence. They can activate it in response, and it looks like they are doing that. I think they only put a couple of life into the Necropotence there though. Alright, we draw the Ozolith. We're just going for Cultivate here I think. Not going to bother attacking in because I don't think the 1 damage is going to make any difference. You can quote me on that. Don't want to make any enemies in particular. A Cabal Coffers entering play there, which taps for 3 mana. Yeah, so they've got 4 in total. That allows them into a Crypt Gas, so even further ramp. And there's a couple of other black players at the table, so there's every chance that someone just thoughtlessly throws down an Urborg. They got the additional cards from the Necropotence there, so they'll have to discard hand size and not exile the card, with Necropotence not being in play anymore. And they discarded Book Burning. First commander of the game is Meren of Clan Neltoth and getting the first experience counter, so at the end of the turn Spore Frog will come straight back into play. A Birthing Pod. I was just thinking that I need to start concentrating on the Meren player now, but now we see a Birthing Pod from Muldrotha can go for a 3-drop off the Golgari Thug. So they do tap out and sacrifice their Golgari Thug, ready to dredge that next turn perhaps. And grabbing themselves a Nyxweaver for some more self-mill. Okay, a Breeding Pool. I think I'll just go in for an island here because we can go for our commander and the Ozolith, and I am going to swing in with the Apparition here, so let's get down our commander. On top of our library is a Branching Evolution, can play cards off the top of our library if we want to remove counters from stuff. So I'll attack the Meren player to start off with. Proliferate on our commander, there's nothing else to proliferate on. Vesuva comes down as a copy of Cabal Coffers. And they are getting double mana on their 3 swamps, don't forget, thanks to the Crypt Ghast. 7 cards in hand. There's a Door of Destinies, so maybe naming Demon with that. Orcus is a demon. And they do name Demon with Door of Destinies. Then going for a Gorging Vulture, that is a bird. Enters the battlefield, mill 4, gain a life per creature that hits the bin. So they got Egon, couple of lands, and Whip of Erebos. Blighted Woodland being sacrificed by Meren, 7 cards in hand there as well, and they go up to 6 mana, sacrificing Spore Frog and reanimating it at the end of the turn again, up to 2 experience counters. Nyxweaver mills 2 during the upkeep, that is a couple of lands, then casts a Deathrite Shaman. Sacrificing the Nyxweaver and going for a 4 mana spell with the Birthing Pod. And that is a Sidisi Brood Tyrant, so doing some more self-mill and trying to generate some zombies. Didn't get any creatures there though, a couple of lands and a Living Death. We obviously draw into the Branching Evolution. C and Abzan Falconer now. I think we need to get the Smothering Tithe into play, to be honest. Yeah, it's a shame that we can't go Smothering Tithe and Branching Evolution. We could go Branching Evolution and the Abzan Falconer, but I think we just need to get Smothering Tithe going, and then the more creatures we get down, the better the Gavany Township is going to be. Hopefully we'll get plenty of treasures with this and can go off a bit faster next turn. Probably should have attacked him first to try and dissuade the Meren player from cracking the Spore Frog. Anyway, I'll see about tapping out here. Let's go for... No, I'll hold back my commander actually. We'll go in towards Muldrotha this time now that they don't have a Reacher. Proliferating with the Apparition once again is just one counter on our commander. Should be fairly easy to keep that in play, hopefully. Bunch of mana going into both the Cabal coffers, so they get to flow 8 mana here, thanks to the double mana. So spending that mana on the first demon, that is Rakshasa Debaser. We don't have any creatures in our bin at the moment, but the Rakdos player might have something to say about that. Meren doesn't have anything either, and it's just the spider from the Sultai player. Seeing a doubling cube now as well. Not sure if that works on Magic Online. There were issues with it at some point in the recent past. 2/2 flyer in towards Muldrotha as well. Seeing another birthing pod here, so obviously the 2 graveyard decks going for similar tactics. Sacrificing the Spore Frog to the birthing pod, so they go for a 2-drop here. Might be Sakura Tribelder, that's really good with Meren, one of the best cards you can put in Meren actually. And yep, that's the one they go for, Sakura Tribelder. Deciding not to leave their Spore Frog in the bin, which is probably wise. If anyone gets down a Paducah Bog or something, then they could easily exile that. We get 4 additional mana from the Smothering Tithe and the treasure tokens, so that does pay for itself over the turn cycle. See if they draw any more here. Exiling a land with the Deathrite Shaman. And it was a fetch from the Rakdos player. It looks like we're seeing... I was going to say Muldrotha, it is the Gitrog monster. So they're going to be forced to sacrifice a land. They've only got 3 lands, so that's pretty risky. 1 board wipe and they're going to be... Yeah, they're going to find things really tricky. So DC swings in towards us. I mean, we can just have our Falco survive here. The Gitrog monster sees a land hit the bin, so they'll draw a card. Also saw a creature go down, that was Baleful Strix, so they do get a zombie token. Yeah, I think it's worth losing a shield counter here to get rid of Sidisi. It's too good a card. They're going to get creatures out of it, and it's really good self-mill. So, yeah, we'll just lose a shield counter here, I think. We're going to get another one next turn. Alright, so now on top. Alright, Hardened Scales and Branching Evolution. So I think we're going for Roll Less. Can we do Roll Less Branching and the Hardened Scales? So we'll cast the Evolution first of all. Throw down the Gavany Township. And I'll go for Roll-esque here. Roll-esque will put a couple of plus counters on my commander, which will be doubled up to 4 counters. Alright, and then we can go for the Hardened Scales. And we'll take away a plus counter from the Falco. A Bane of Progress, that's the last card we want to cast with this board state. Although there are good artifacts and enchantments to remove, but we've got really good ones as well. So I don't want to play into a board wipe. Could go Abzan Falconer here, but I think I'm going to be playing Abzan Falconer and Gavany Township next turn. Maybe it's worth going for it this turn so that we can go Gavany Township plus counters on everything and then Armorcraft Judge. Anyway, we swing in first of all. Swing in with our commander at the Orcus player. I'm hoping that we don't have all 3 players looking in our direction. I didn't want to swing in at Muldrotha there because they seem to have their eye on us already, so yeah, I really don't want to have to deal with multiple players. And if I'd swung in at Meren, I think they would have cracked the Spore Frog. Oh, and actually, oh my god, I forgot to swing in with the Apparition. Oh, that's stupid. Alright, well, whatever. Let's get the Abzan Falconer down. Like I said, I'm playing into a board wipe here, but it sets us up for both Gavany Township and the Armorcraft Judge to try and refill our hand next turn. Yeah, should have had more plus counters and shield counters on the Falco there. Our opponent keeps missing lands over here. Luckily, they are still doing well with that Cryptghast. Doubling up the mana with the doubling cubes, so I imagine they're going for their Orcus here. So obviously, if they manage to wipe the board here, they'll be able to take advantage of the Rakshasa. Playing a Thaumatic Compass first, though. And then activating the Thaumatic Compass, so not going for the board wipe here with their commander, I don't think. Managing to get another swamp into play, which they just tutored up to make their Cabal coffers stronger. Going for the Orcus, X is 1. So it's -X on creatures, which unfortunately gets rid of our Grateful Apparition. Haven't been quite fast enough in getting counters on that. So we'll want another source of proliferation. Sakura Tribelder being sacrificed in response, and the Spore Frog being sacked in response as well, so while this thing is going to swing in and take advantage, yeah, they can actually get the Spore Frog under their control there, which they probably should do, so not sure I would have sacked the Spore Frog there in all honesty. Anyway, swinging in at Meren, which we should be looking at doing because they've got plenty of mana now and there's plenty of crazy stuff you can do with Meren, especially with access to a birthing pod. So they correctly take the Spore Frog there, only attacking one player because this is an Encore, so they only get the one creature. Meren blocking, so maybe, I'm not sure why they're blocking, they've just activated the Spore Frog, so there's no combat damage here. Anyway, maybe they forgot about that and they're actually looking to wipe the board next turn, so thought maybe I should just block with my commander, seeing as how it's going to die anyway. The fact that they blocked there might have been telling. Rex Sage entering the fray. They should probably... not sure what they should go for here. Probably Birthing Pod is a good idea. They might go after our Smothering Tithe though. Yeah, I think that is the right move, going for the Birthing Pod on the Muldrotha player. There is a 4-drop Reclamation Evoke creature now. So they could sacrifice Rex Sage and still go for something like that, or Ravenous Chupacabra, something along those lines. Alright, a Living Death. We don't have a sack outlet, unfortunately. And yeah, this is destruction and damage it avoids, so there are means of getting rid of Falco, and that's one of them. The Proliferate from our Roless doesn't do anything, unfortunately. Unless we can... No, we can't get the counters on Ozolith first. Oh, actually, we should be able to put Rollesk on the stack, shouldn't we? We don't have to target straight away, just on resolution with that, I think. This is worded so when a plus counter is put on a creature, so it doesn't put twice as many on the Ozolith. That's on a creature as well, so let's go Rollesk, and then the Ozolith resolves first, so we'll get some shield and plus counters on there. Alright, so it's 3 plus counters, 2 shield counters. We will Proliferate on the Ozolith, and yeah, no point in going Door of Destinies really. Cool to get the Grateful Apparition back at least, because that means that we're able to proliferate all over the show again. There was some more self-mill from Sidisi entering as well, so that's a Vamp Tutor, a land, and a Zulaport Cutthroat in there now. And then a further 2 mill from Nyxweaver. Another creature was milled. Okay, it's both Kakusho and the Viscera Seer. Sidisi used to make... Okay, it's fixed now. It used to make multiple tokens per creature that was milled, but it is fixed now, so only getting the 1. Rhystic Study from Muldrotha. I think we can afford to not pay the tax on that, honestly, which is, yeah, which really goes against my own principles with this card, but they're not doing too well on the lands there, and we might actually need their help to get rid of Meren. Sidisi swinging in. It swings in at Meren, as it should, milling another land, a Sensei's Top, and an Open the Graves. Sakura Tribelder is blocking and sacrificing in response. Oh, they actually didn't sacrifice it there, strangely. So now we see a Bane of Progress, which we obviously knew we were drawing into. Let's go for... I don't think... Yeah, what I was going to do is play the Armorcraft Judge, hold priority, and then go Gavany Township on the stack, and then we draw more, but... Yeah, we're not going to have enough mana to do this as well as our commander. So it's Rhystic Study. I think we can pay the commander tax here. I won't tap down the Gavany Township just in case, because we might want to activate that at the end of Muldrotha's turn. But we will pay for the Rhystic Study. Actually, no. I don't know what's going to be on top of the library, so we'll try and help out the Muldrotha player, actually try and get into some lands, because it also gives us another treasure token. And the more mana we've got, the better. Okay, that is a Gaia's Cradle on top, so speaking of the more mana, the better. We can not afford... We're 2 mana away from this and the Gavany Township, so we're just holding up Gavany Township for the end of our opponent's turn. Let's go through to combat. Ozolith going to trigger will dump the counters on the Grateful Apparition, which came in last turn, or one of the previous turns, so it doesn't have Summoning Sickness. So that now with 12 plus counters and 4 shield counters on it. And we'll swing in towards the Meren player. If we go for Gavany Township now, we're going to dump even more plus counters. Yeah, I want to encourage my opponents over to Meren as well to try and get them not swinging in at us. so I won't deal too much damage to them here. Don't want to deal so much damage that they think we will deal with them next turn. So knock them down to 19, actually managed to attack with the Grateful Apparition this time, so proliferate on our commander and on the apparition itself. So 2+ counters, or 2 shield counters even. And then it's a 17-17, 16+ counters, 5 shield counters. Really, really grateful for the Ozolith there. So pass the turn with the Gavany Township held up. Can't play lands off the top with our commander, but we do have a couple of creatures in Augur of Autumn, is it called? And then there's Oracle of Muldrotha as well that we can play lands off the top with. Egon going to trigger. They exile the Necropotence and Book of Burning, so keeping the Egon in play. Not quite as much mana now thanks to the Crypt Gas going down. And they do have additional mana on their Orcus. It'll cost 6 mana where X is 0. Do still get a nice chunk of mana from Cabal Coffers though, so that's 10 mana in total. After the doubling cube, that is. And we see Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, so going to draw 4 cards, take them up to 8. And not paying into the Rhystic Study because they can't afford it. So we get more Smothering Tithe triggers from the Rhystic Study, or 1 from the Rhystic Study, and it'll be 4 from Kozilek, which won't be paid for either. Managed to get into another mountain finally, so playing that one out. Going down to 7 cards in hand. And Egon also swinging in towards Meren, so yeah, the plan going nicely there. Meren still has 7 cards in hand. Maybe should have gone for the Gavany Township and threatened lethal on them, but yeah, like I said, I want my opponents to be concentrating over here as well. The problem is Meren might have a board wipe to go for here. Anyway, Thaumatic Compass is going to flip round. That's actually going to be a really relevant land for us. Noteworthy that Meren was not put into the command zone, it's in the graveyard here, so yeah, they probably have some semblance of reanimation, which obviously wouldn't be unusual for a Meren deck. So Animate Dead goes on to the Meren. If we can get rid of the enchantment, we'll get rid of the commander as well. And no one's paid into the Rhystic Study yet. And they get their own Gaia's Cradle, playing their own Deathrite Shaman as well. Once again, not paying the tax on Rhystic Study. Probably safe, like I said, they've only got 4 mana available to them, probably 5 next turn. Noteworthy that the Spore Frog is available to the Meren player now, of course, because the board got wiped before. A Demonic Tutor being cast now. That is a Fleshbag Marauder, so really struggling to keep creatures in play here. I think we have to have our Falco go down because we'll still have access to it, hopefully, by the time our turn comes around, thanks to all those treasure tokens. It does allow us to put more shield counters on the Ozolith at least, which hopefully can go on the Armorcraft Judge. So they go up to 7 experience counters now. Can probably just reanimate whatever they want at this point. Sacking the Deathrite Shaman to the Birthing Pod allows them a 2-drop. There is a Shapeshifter. Nope, just going for some ramp. I was going to say there is a Shapeshifter for 2 mana that can exile something from your bin and exile an artifact or enchantment in exchange. Have to imagine that they go after the Spore Frog here, because everyone's going to be gunning for them. If they do that, that means that the Muldrotha player should swing in as much as they can over here to try and get them to crack it. Nope, alright, going for the Fleshbag Marauder, so that's likely to deal with our board. Oh, of course, there's the Kozilek over here as well, that might have been what they were more worried about. So Ozolith going to do a hell of a lot of work for us here. 16+ counters and 7 shields on it. We see an Oracle of Muldrotha and a Razaketh in the bin over here, thanks to the Nyx Weaver. And they finally get into that 4th land, followed by a Mana Vault. So here's where drawing them a bunch of cards starts to injure us. A Lotus Petal, so they do have ramp in the deck. Just haven't had the best of luck getting into it. Arcane Signet, I'm wondering if, as good as our artifacts and enchantments are, I'm wondering if we're really going to slow our opponents down enough with a Bane of Progress. I mean, we'd kill this creature, the Self-Mill, we'd get rid of mana and sources of card draw. We'd get rid of the commander here, the Birthing Pod, load of mana here. I mean, might be worth doing. Let's see if we can play anything off the top with Falco first. Obviously going to draw into the Gaia's Cradle here. We'll get our commander out yet again. It's noteworthy that they didn't go for their commander there, so I wonder if they're holding anything up for us. I'm not going to pay into the Rhystic Study. I just want to actually try and get some semblance of a board state here. It's a real balancing act. Do you want to gain mana and give your opponent a card, or keep them off a card and not be as high on mana thanks to the Smothering Tithe? Okay, and it's just a land on top, annoyingly, so do we go floating a bunch of mana? I mean, if they've got counter magic in their hand, then... Oh, they've actually got access to 7 mana, haven't they? So it might be that they're just holding up a Cyclonic Rift. So in that case, we can go through to combat, have all this get dumped on the Falco, go Bane of Progress after that, then Armorcraft Judge, do the Gavany Township thing, try and draw some cards. Yeah, I think that's the aim here. Really don't like blowing up my own stuff, but I'm just trying to slow my opponents down. Missing Lightning Greaves here, unfortunately, because our commanders jumped up to a 37-37 with 8 shield counters on it. Unfortunately, still have this thing to contend with. So we'll have to float a bunch of mana because we're about to lose all our treasures, which doesn't feel good, but I think it's our only means out here, really, because this thing's just going to keep getting cycled over and over again. So floating 18 mana, we will play the Bane of Progress. See if our opponent has any counter magic for us. Once again, I'm looking to create a board state of some kind, so I'm not going to pay into the Rhystic Study against my better judgment. Get a Smothering Tithe trigger there, so we'll have to float some more mana, assuming that this lands. Well, it looks like they've got something for us in response. Oh, Smothering Tithe was actually paid for there, so we don't get another treasure. Return a card from graveyard to hand. They are targeting with that the Living Death. Okay, well, we'll get some creatures back from that at least. At least everyone knows what's coming now. Entomb, going to put a card in the bin as well. Noteworthy that a Gravebreaker Lamia has entered the bin at some point as well. Not sure. That might have been due to hand size, maybe. Okay, Protean. Oh, good. Protean Hulk, so probably a 1-card combo. So no counter magic at least. The Bane of Progress hits play with no treasure to crack or anything like that. So allow this to resolve. Okay, and Animate Dead going down along with everything else, so will the Meren. Meren does make it back to the command zone this time. I'm not sure what the commander tax is on that. We'll go Armorcraft Judge, going to hold control, which is how you hold priority. That enters, and we'll activate the Gavany Township because we do want to have Armorcraft Judge have a counter on it. It means we'll draw an additional card here. Bane of Progress is a 16-16, by the way. Drawing 3 cards off the Armorcraft Judge, and of course we just get into a bunch of lands. We do have Proliferate in Khan's Bastion. We could play out the Future Sight, I suppose. It's not really particularly flashy, is it? I think it's best to just shuffle around with the Wooded Foothills here. We actually don't have a blue source that we can grab, unfortunately, so we'll have to hope that we don't want triple blue on anything. I think Future Sight is the only triple blue thing that we can go for. And of course it's just another land on top, so yeah, so much for that. Just have to hope that the board isn't wiped once again. Although we do know that Living Death is probably coming down next turn. They only have 1 black source though, from the Birds of Paradise, so maybe won't be able to cast that. Liliana's Indignation. Mill X cards, lose 2 life for each creature put into the graveyard this way, so have to hope that we don't lose too many creatures here. Might set us up nice for that Living Death, though. Let's see here. Oh, it's just us that loses the life. They mill. Alright, so we go down to 33. They didn't get too many creatures there, I don't think. That is a Haunting Voyage, Thespian Stage, Tybalt's Trickery, Maya Triton, and the Liliana's Indignation, of course. So, yeah, didn't do too well there. There's a Dreadhound in the bin there as well, an Urborg, Demonic Tutor. Yeah, so not too much going on there. Meren of Clan Nel Toth coming back into play again, so they had to tap out 6, 7, 8 mana for that, I think. Oh no, it was 6 mana because they put mana into a Rupture Spire. Sacking the Myriad Landscape for a couple more lands. So we should be able to get the Meren player next turn. Oh, of course, they've got the access to Spore Frog, haven't they? Our beloved Spore Frog. Okay, well, turns out he can afford the Living Death. Got into, I think it was Command Tower there. So Meren's sacking the Spore Frog to get an experience counter, and also it's going to be reanimated by the Living Death here. Yeah, I didn't think we'd struggle on keeping our Falco in play, in all honesty. I thought it would be pretty much Swords and Path, Cyclonic Rift, and that's about it, but plenty of edict effects here. So Muldrotha being really well helped by that. A Oracle of Muldaya, an Oracle of Muldaya reveals a Mystic Remora, and we see Sidisi about to mill some stuff. Gravebreaker Lamia, that's an Entomb. Draw with the Baleful Strix. We put Rolesk on the stack. Let's dump that on the Grateful Apparition again. The Baleful progress went about as well as I thought it would. I still think it was the right decision. I knew that we were going to really lose a really good board state, but we weren't doing much of anything else anyway, and our opponents stood to get out from underneath that a lot better than we could, a lot faster, so it's hard to say what the right move was, but I stand by it here. See a Maya Triton and Dreadhound from the Rakdos player. Meren gets the experience counter from the creature dying. Sylvan Ranger enters, as does Rex Sage. Rex Sage is pointed at Gravebreaker Lamia because it's an enchantment creature. So Razaketh should really sacrifice that in response and search for something. They didn't, curiously. So Dreadhound triggers, as does the Zulaport Cutthroat from Muldrotha. Unfortunately, Zulaport Cutthroat is from creatures you control, so it doesn't trigger off Sakura Tribelder and Spore Frog. Plenty of creatures to sacrifice if they want to try and get rid of Meren, though. Gravebreaker puts a Macaeus the Unhallowed in the bin. It should be pretty damn good with a sack outlet in Razaketh. And then there's some self-mill. That is another sack outlet in Carrion Feeder. Worm Harvest can be played from the bin, and there's a Victimize as well. Razaketh sacrificing... Did they get the Protein Hulk reanimated there? Yeah, I think they just sacrificed the Protein Hulk. Yes, they did. It's on the stack. So we might just lose here. Alright, the Meren player disconnected there, so I think they're assuming that we've lost here. It might be that it's a fair Protein Hulk, but highly doubt it. We don't know until we know. And now deciding to scoop. Protein Hulk only went for the Harvester of Souls, so not just winning the game outright there, so it turns out it was a fair Protean Hulk. Had the Tutor Resolve from the Razaketh, throwing down a Sol Ring. We see a land on top, not sure if they can play that. Razaketh sacrificing again, so triggering the Dreadhound and Zulaport Cutthroat once more. I assume they're just killing off zombies. Yawgmoth's Will on top now. And they've got... That's the third Guy's Cradle we've seen this game. Once again activating the Razaketh. That was Kakusho this time, so they do draw a card from the Harvester of Souls as well, and drain each of us for 5. Seeing Ponder on the top, but they're about to shuffle that away with Razaketh, revealing a land on top after the shuffle. Sacrificing the Oracle of Muldaya. That is a scry one with Viscera Seer trying to get the land off the top. Followed by a Time Twister. Can't say I mind that, maybe wish I'd got the Guy's Cradle down though. Obviously was trying to shuffle on the previous turn though. So we can draw more cards with Prime Speaker Zagana. Potentially have an Infinite with Devoted Druid if we get into one more card. Of course getting into, that's funny, getting into the Birthing Pod again. So it's tutor number 27. Sacrificing the Harvester of Souls gets them another 7 drop. And alright, straight into the Protein Hulk again. Sacking that with the Viscera Seer. We're slowly getting chipped away by the Dreadhound and the Zulaport Cutthroat, down to 11. We were at a decent life total previously. And they grabbed the Kakusho back and sacrificed it again straight away, so once again draining us for 5, we go down to 3. So we're likely going down this turn, I would think. 1 mana left, going for Solemn Simulacrum. Then sacking the Solemn Simulacrum to draw a card and scry to the Viscera Seer. We go down to 1 life after the Zulaport Cutthroat. Sacking something with Razaketh this time will take us out. Round to Orcus. The Cabal Coffers each tap for 6 mana. So they're going to have 10 mana from the Cabal Coffers alone here. I think their Orcus is still on 6 mana, so they'd have to put 8 into X. So that's 14 mana. They can afford it. Problem is Razaketh can always go for the Living Death again, so yeah, I'm not sure the Rakdos player can really do much of anything here other than maybe combo off with something. Yeah, Harvester of Souls I don't see is going to do much of anything for them. Well, there's an Oblivion Stone, so they do have a board wipe, cracking the O Stone. And not doing anything with the Razaketh in response, that's curious. We've got 7 cards in hand. Maybe they have every piece of insurance that they could want, but yeah, I don't think Living Death is in the bin. No, it isn't. Well, the Dreadhound going to trigger a bunch of times. Soul of the Harvest going to draw a bunch of cards. And then Zulaport Cutthroat is as well, so they're going to be around the 5 life mark. Ended up at 7 life and 14 cards in hand. Ending the turn with a Demonic Tutor, tapping down their Maze of It, so they'll have to hope that there's no haste from the Muldrotha player. They could get a Lightning Greaves out. And there we go, they had the Living Death, so that's probably why they didn't bother with the Razaketh thing. Not sure what Orcus has available to him. Only 3 creatures, it was actually the 3 creatures, of course, because of the shuffle from the Time Twister before. So getting those 3 creatures out again. And they get the Kakusho back, yeah, so deciding to scoop there. All they really have to do is sack Kakusho, and they'll lose 5 life to that. A life to Zulaport Cutthroat, kill another creature, and that's them done. We didn't have the best of luck there, although we did show off what we're wanting to do with the Falco. We had a massive Falco at some point, and if we'd had a Lightning Greaves, that would have made all the difference. The problem is we're a more combat-based deck, and we just weren't fast enough here, so like I said, we were missing haste, and could have gone for a combo with Devoted Druid. There's Future Sight and what is it called? Sensei's Divining Top. We can do stuff like that. Just didn't get into it, unfortunately, but hopefully you liked the look of Falco anyway. If you want to see more from it, then be sure to let me know. Massive thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel, as always. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.